Hey everybody, welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. We've got a Transformers Masterpiece unboxing and review coming your way. This time around we're going to be taking a look at the highly anticipated and a figure I've really been looking forward to, Transformers Masterpiece MP-57 Skyfire. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this bubble wrap off. I just took him out of the shipping box, so I'm going to get this bubble wrap off and then I'm going to get the box opened up and we're going to take a look at everything that came with the big guy himself. And this is a big box, as you can see. The extent of my light box on either side. This is a big box for a big figure, but let's go ahead and get started. Alright, now that we got that bubble wrap off there, let's take a look at that box first and go ahead and get that out of the way. Like I said, this box is huge. It's probably the biggest Masterpiece box I've ever seen. So you have Transformers Masterpiece. Actually, why do I need to bring it in closer? I'm just going to leave it like that. And yeah, you've got your product shots right there on the front. MP-57 Cybertron, Aviation Defense Skyfire, long life design over there. Let's flip it over here to the side. And you have a really good looking view of Skyfire, aka Jetfire there. Let's look at the top. Skyfire. Let's look at the bottom. You have all that information. Try not to shake the camera, guys, sorry. And over here you have Skyfire with all of his little dudes, and he's in his Gerwalk mode. And let's go ahead and go to the back because there's a lot to see here. So you have Masterpiece Skyfire, you have all that if you read something other than English. I do not. And you've got some nice product shots going on over there. And then making our way down. More product shots. There's everything that is supposed to be in the box. We'll see if it really is. And more product shots. So, yeah, this guy looks awesome. All right, next step. Let's go ahead and get the box open. And I'll get everything out of the box, but then we'll go over all of it in detail as well. And we've got that box out of the way. I wanted to take a moment here just to show you how he comes packaged. So let's go ahead and take a look at that real quick. So you've got your bio card, you've got your instruction booklet right there, and looks like you've got some more. Yeah, you've got his base taped up under here. So that base is dangling. But let's go ahead and, my goodness, it's huge. So that's how he's packaged. And let's take the top off now. I need to undo this tape, so we'll cut this tape really fast. I'll pop that top off and you can take a look at everything as it is. And my goodness, I have him the wrong way. Oh my goodness, look at that. There he is in all of his glory, and he's a heavy dude too. Alright, so now that we've got that officially unboxed, I'm going to get everything out of here. I'm going to set it all up, and then we're going to take a look in detail at everything that came with Skyfire. Behold, laid out here before you is everything that came with that Masterpiece Skyfire, and oddly enough, you don't get a little sheet of warnings with this guy, so kind of strange, but that's alright. We're just going to keep on moving, and we're going to start back here with your sheet of instructions. So you get that. And then you get your bio card, which is way back there. So there's your nice artwork, MP-57 Skyfire. And back here, if you can read it, go for it. All right. And then we've got all the rest of this stuff. So let's just go ahead and start back here. And we're going to look at these blast effects. You get two blast effects that are identical. And they can go with the rifle, or they can go on the thrusters on the backside of Skyfire. Oddly enough, with these blast effects, you don't have enough room to plug both of them into the gun at the same time. So, yeah, you're just going to do that. So, you know, have fun. It's not bad. It's a little disappointing, though, that you can't have those side by side. So, bit of a bummer. Anyway, moving on to the gun. Here we have his rifle. So, it's not incredibly detailed, but it looks pretty good. I like that gunmetal gray that they're using on the gun. And then over here, here's the other side. Now you do have a peg right here that you can use. It's kind of cool. You can use in his bot mode, and we'll take a look at that here shortly. So kind of a nice feature there. And then you can fold that handle in, and then you've got this little dovetail channel right here that you use for the weapon storage in his plane mode. All right, so that's about it for the gun though. So let's set that off to the side. Then we're going to make our way over here, and we'll look at his breastplates first. So if you want him to be neutral, this is just like a dovetail channel kind of thing, where you can put that right up on his breastplate where the Autobot or the Decepticon insignia would go, and then he's just completely neutral. Or if you want him to be evil, then you have the Decepticon logo on that breastplate, or you have the heroic Autobot logo that you can use. Alright, and then making our way to the faces. He comes with 3 faces. I don't have a face on him right now. He's kind of scary looking without a face, but there you go. That's his, what year is it kind of face. At least that's what I picture. And then you can see, we'll throw one of these faces on here shortly, but yeah, there's just a big old peg sticking out of his head, and then you just press fit that on there. Next face. This is his happy face. He finally knows what year it is. So it looks pretty good. A little weird in the mouth in my opinion, but overall not bad. Next one up is his neutral. This is his poker face. You don't know if he's got a flush, if he's got a straight. You only find out when he lays him down. So, and same thing, just a big hole in the back. And then this is kind of cool. It doesn't work 100% perfectly, but it's kind of a cool thought. So this is his battle mask, and you can see that it has kind of that metal insert right there. So the face itself, the head, is magnetic. He's either a magnet in the head and this is metal, or this is slightly magnetic and that's metal in the head, one way or the other. And it's just held on by the magic of magnetism, and you can kind of get an idea of what happens there. And again, we'll show this once we put a face on him. So kind of cool. And then you've got 3 minifigures that come with him. So we're just going to start right up here with Wheeljack, as the Americans know him. So there's a little tiny Wheeljack, and as far as articulation goes, I'm not brave enough to try to turn that head. I'm going to assume there's nothing at the head, and at the shoulders you get that far up all the way around if you want to do it, and then you do get some elbow bend, and then at the hips you get a little bit of action there, and then kicking forward, kicking back, and then knee bend. So, and that's about the same for all 3 figures. Wheeljack is carrying his toolbox, so it's kind of cool. It does hinder a little bit when you try to stick Wheeljack somewhere inside of Skyfire, Jetfire, but still pretty cool. I like him. And then you come next to Mr. Jazz, and same articulation there, so I'm not going to go over that again, but the one thing that I will point out, it's kind of weird. His hands are in the formation of riding a motorcycle. So, yeah, there you go. So, it looks good. I forgot to show Wheeljack from the back, but there is Jazz from the back. Let me grab Wheeljack real quick. Just bring him back up here. There's the Wheeljack back. And then we come to Optimus Prime. So, typical Optimus Prime fashion. Looks pretty good for a figure his size. And the articulation is the same on Optimus as the other guys. So, there you go. All right, and now we're left with basically the ingredients for the base. So this is your mount for Skyfire to mount him either in bot mode or in the jet mode onto this. And then you have the main arm that connects. I guess we'll just go ahead and start here. It's probably easier. You've got these 2 pieces right here, so you've got some sculpt work in there, and there's the bottoms of them. And you got some sculpt work, and if you line them up correctly, you can kind of sort of find the right way to hook them up where they kind of look like they go together, and you just press fit them in. And then you have these series of holes. It's up to you whichever way configuration you want to put them in. And you've got these slots down here, or these tabs, and then you're just gonna lay them in, push that in, and voila, you've created your base. And then you raise it up, and then you have this arm right here. You bring that arm down, you've got this little guy right here where you can bend it down, and then you can just plug that in just about anywhere you want. So then you have the ability to move this base up here, so you can move that up, you can move it down, you can move it side to side if you want to put an angle on your poses. So it works all right. It's not the greatest thing ever, but it works pretty good. And then as far as interaction with this, you just have this hole right here. So then you're just going to plug that in, and that's going to fit in there like that. And then you can do with it what you will. So there you go. All right, so now that we've gone over all the accessories that came with the big guy, there he is without a face. Ooh. Let's go ahead and bring him in, and we'll take a look at his details now. Here he is, that absolutely ginormous bot we've been waiting to see. This is MP-57 Skyfire. So let's go ahead and take a look at the details on this guy, and apologies in advance. This guy is big. I'm going to do my best to present everything as well as I can, and also try to minimize camera shake. But man, this guy's got some heft to him, and he's got some size. So let's go ahead and get started, and we're just going to take a look at that head right there as it is. And as you can see, I have no face on him yet. We're going to get to that, but the actual head sculpt itself looks pretty good. So you've got nice work done all the way across. One of the cool features here that you have on his head itself is, if I bring him in and give you a little bit more of a close-up there, is the fact that you can see through that port right there, and you can see the significant readouts, the equivalent of the EKG, if you will, for Jetfire or Skyfire, and you can lift that up and you can get some additional details. So that's really cool. It's a nice little feature. I like it. Also, lifting this up helps when you want to put the face on and remove the face. So very cool. Coming on down to the chest, I'm just going to do a series of camera adjustments instead of trying to hold this guy. It's just a lot easier, so bear with me here. So coming on down and taking a look at that chest, everything looks pretty good here. I would say that this is Skyfire Jetfire as we remember him from the cartoon. Right here is the area where you put the insignia on. So you just flip this out, and then you've got that channel right there, and then you just slide that right on. So easy change out on all of that. And then you've got his cockpit area right here. So let's go ahead and keep going on down. You've got those legs, the crotch. So not a lot of sculpt work. It's kind of a G1 simplified sculpt. So it's not overly busy. Here let's do a really shaky camera adjustment and bring that down a little bit more so we're slightly more proportional. And I will go ahead and lift him up now so we can see those legs in detail right there. And these are the landing gears, so that's what those panels are right there. There's the insides of the legs, and there you've got those feet. And then let's go ahead and take a look at him from the side and give you that side profile. So he does have that typical Skyfire Jetfire backpack that we've come to expect from this figure. So it's pretty significant. It compacts up well enough, but it's still pretty significant. You do have to account for it when it comes to posing because there's a pretty good amount of mass back here that's going to throw you off. So just something to be aware of there. But you can see from a proportion standpoint that he comes together pretty well, I think. I don't have any major complaints about the overall proportions of the figure. I think he looks pretty good. So there he is from the side, and going into one of my pet peeves, if you lift this up right here, you've got a couple of areas right here where you can hook this in, but if you need that additional room as far as articulation goes, which we'll get into later, but you can see lifting that up, that he is solid all the way through, so nothing to worry about there as far as literally seeing through this guy. So just go ahead and put that back down and show him from the back. Try to keep him balanced there. Starting up high and then making our way down. You can see that everything works out pretty well with this guy. So again, not a lot of sculpt work, not an overly busy figure. Just comes together, works pretty well. He does have some beefy Popeye forearms, so that is one thing that maybe is out of proportion. So you can see that those forearms are pretty darn thick. So yeah, that may be something that they could have slimmed down a little bit, but I think in the grand scheme of things, this figure came out looking pretty good. All right, so yeah, definitely, definitely a huge, literally and metaphorically speaking, huge shelf presence with this figure. So let's go ahead and get into the articulation on Skyfire, and we'll start right up here with the head. So the head is on a double joint, so you can actually, this is the head in its home position, if you will. But if you grab that head and give that a pull, you can actually bring that up on that double joint right there, which gives you a pretty wide range of motion. You can get up that high, you can get down that high, that low, and then you can give him a quizzical tilt and then go all the way around. And then if you want, just put that back in that home position. It's up to you. So I think as far as Masterpiece figures go, that's probably one of the more well-articulated heads we've gotten. So moving on to the shoulder. The shoulder itself, this is a folded up assemblage right here of a bunch of different pieces. So your actual shoulder motion is limited. So as far as the shoulder itself, you can come out that far with the shoulder and in. Now, you're going to, I know I do, everybody else out there is probably going to do the same thing as well. You're going to want more shoulder motion. So once you maximize that shoulder right there, that's where you just get into untabbing this assembly right here. So if you just lift this up, you can untab it. You've got a spot right there where you can untab, or you have another spot right up under there where you can untab. So if you wanted to bring this whole thing out, you could bring that out, tab that back in, and then you have much wider range of motion, and then you've got a little bit of filler right there as well. So that's probably what most people are going to do. It's just kind of a pain in the butt to tab back in. All right, making our way to the bicep area. As soon as I make another camera adjustment. Making our way to the bicep area, you have the bicep rotation right there, and then at that bicep, you do have nice deep bends right there. So you can get a nice elbow bend on him. And then you go all the way around if you choose to do so. And then coming down here to the hands are fully articulated, which is fantastic. So starting at the wrist first, that's as far out as they go. They go in that far. You can rotate them all the way around, and then you have individually articulated fingers and thumb. So you can see the pins in there where you can bend that thumb. So bend it there. If you want to do that, just don't do that part. All right, and fingers are the same way. So bringing those fingers out, you can see all the articulation that you get. Strange thing is all of his fingers are the same length. It's kind of odd, and if anything, the pinky looks like it's just a hair longer. But they all move individually, so you can do what you want to do there. So, very cool. All right, making our way down. Unfortunately, you don't have anything at the waist, so that's kind of a bummer. I totally get it. I mean, this entire cockpit right here is all one piece. Would have been almost impossible, if not legitimately impossible, for them to add any kind of articulation at the waist. So nothing at the waist, no ab crunch that at least that I'm aware of. If I'm wrong, let me know, but I didn't see one in all the handling that I've done of this guy. So coming down to the hips, you can, I'm just going to do one hip here just because of his size. So bring that hip skirt out and then bring that arm up and get it out of my way. So you can get a considerable split on this guy. He's not going to go full Van Damme for you, but you can get a nice split for sure. Bringing that back down, you can hear those nicely ratcheted hips as well, so that's helpful. You do have thigh rotation, so out that far, in that far. Forward kick, you've got a forward kick of that far. Now, you do have the ability to move these as well. You're just going to start running into your backpack. So, you know, if you needed a little bit extra, you could do that, and then you can get really high up. Now he's like a rocket. So you can do something like that. Just be careful when you move these. Don't damage your figure. All right, and then back kick is going to be negligible because of the backpack. All right, so same thing. If you wanted to lift this up, you could kind of help yourself out there, but it's not going to get you a lot. One thing is worth noting is look at all the detail that's in there. I missed that earlier, so I'm seeing it now for the first time with you. So, very cool. All right. So, that was the hips. We covered that. Let's go down to the leg, or down a little bit lower. I'm going to kick that forward. And then there is your knee bend. So, nice deep knee bend as well. You've got some detail down here in the kneecap, which is kind of cool. And you do have the ability, if I bring that back a little bit, you can move this kneecap up and down, depending on where you want it as far as coverage for the posing. of the knee, so you can see it's up a little bit more. You can slide that down. So very cool. I do like that. And then going down to those feet. The feet are interesting. I don't know if I'm a fan. So as far as those feet go, you have a heel spur back here that you can move. It is nice and tight. It will hold, so no worries as far as that goes. You can move the foot down. If you collapse that heel spur, you can move the foot down that far and move the foot up that far. Of course, you can take your heel spur back out now. So you can move the foot up that far. And then you do have ankle tilt, but it's ratcheted ankle tilt, which is strange, and it doesn't work perfect. At least on my copy, it doesn't work perfect. So you can tilt outward, and you can tilt inward one click. Now this one over here, you know, you get that outward, and then you get that inward, but it doesn't want to stay. It's like I barely touch it, and it wants to come right back out. So not the biggest fan of the ratcheted ankle tilt, but it is what it is. So overall, I would say the articulation on this figure is nice. I do miss waist rotation. I like what they've done with the shoulders to give you that extra maneuverability there. Also providing the filler area so it isn't obvious that basically you're untransforming him. Legs, plenty of posability there. He is fairly stable for his size. He can get a bit top heavy, so just be careful of that. But I think overall articulation is pretty good, just minus a few minor things there. Now let's go ahead and move on to the accessories portion. And I don't know about you, but I'm kind of over looking at Skyfire without a face. It's starting to freak me out a little bit. So let's make that the first item on our agenda, shall we? So I think we're going to pick a face here, and the face we're going to pick is the happy face, because he's going to be happy once he finally has a face. So let's go ahead and get started on that. So the face is pretty easy. You just have this port right there, or peg right there. You have this port on the back right there, so you're just going to plug those into each other. It does help if you lift this piece up right there just to give yourself a little bit of room, and of course utilize that double joint right there to give your fingers all the room that they need. And you're going to line that up, and then it is just a press fit, so you're going to get the face aligned, push that back down, and there you go. Jetfire is happy now. So same procedure with every face. Just take them off, put a new one on, and move on with life. So there you go. He has a face. He's happy. I'm happy. I hope you're happy. All right, speaking of happy, I don't know, that's the worst segue ever. But speaking of happy, let's talk about the battle mask. So we're going to put this on temporarily just because it simply doesn't hold really well, but it's kind of a cool concept. So you use the magic of magnetism here, and you're just going to take this battle mask, and you're going to, I'll turn his head to the side a little bit there, you're going to just put it on there, and voila, you're done. That's it. So like I said, it's not perfect, but it does kind of sort of stay, and it kind of sort of looks cool. I'm not a big fan of that gap right up there. So if you get it set up, it'll stay, but it doesn't take a lot to knock it off. So it'll hold as long as you do that. But as soon as you like really touch it, it's just going to fall off. So beware if you're going to use it. Just make sure it's not anywhere it's going to fall and you're going to lose it. So just something to be aware of there. It just plugs on. Well, it doesn't even plug. Just behold the power of magnetism, I guess. And there you go. So I'm not going to leave the battle mask on right now. I'm going to go ahead and take it back off because it's going to fall on me anyway. So I'm just going to take that and move it off to the side. I would have liked to have had the ability to have something a little more secure, or, you know, I don't know, guys, maybe a stronger magnet. You know, I'm just spitballing here. But anyway, we're going to move on down his chest to his breastplate. And we're going to start with the neutral one first, because why not? You just slide that on. It just lines up, and you slide it on, and then you close it up. And as far as I'm concerned with the blank one, there's minimal change here. But if you want to make him a Decepticon, you can make him a Decepticon pretty easy. He's a happy Decepticon. He looks kind of special there. But there you go. He's a happy Decepticon. And then take that off, and he's a happy Autobot now. So there you go. That's all there is to it. It's got just enough friction to keep it on. It's not going to fall off until you slide it. So do with that what you will. For now, he's going to be an Autobot, so there you go. All right, so let's make our way to his rifle. So the rifle is exactly what you would expect. I mean, it's typical Takara Masterpiece style action here. So you have the slot in the palm, you have tabs on the gun. You're going to line the tabs up to the slot. But unlike other Masterpiece figures, man, this thing is secure. Look at that. It's not going anywhere. You don't even need to wrap the fingers around yet. But, you know, if you choose to wrap the fingers around, go for it. Wrap the fingers around, put the thumb down. And there you go. Now he's a happy Autobot, armed and ready to go. So, yeah, very cool. While we are here at this point, let's go ahead and talk about that blast effect. I'm going to move him out of the way a little bit. And we're going to talk about, you know, because you can't use two. So pick your barrel, I suppose. Let's go with the right barrel. And there you go. Boom. He's a happy Autobot shooting somebody. So, yeah, it looks good. Really wish you could use the second one. That would have been so cool. But, what are you going to do? All right, so there we are with option 1 for the gun. The other thing that you can do with the gun, let's go ahead and take that back out of his hand. I'm going to need that, sir. Thank you. You have this little spot right up here that if you just give this a push, you're going to swing this out, and look at that. You've got a port. What are you going to do with the port? I wonder. I don't know. You're going to take that handle, push that handle down. I don't know, guys. Maybe I'm getting a little loopy here. It's been a long day. And then you're going to plug that gun in, and then you're going to readjust your camera again because, yet again, this guy is so tall. But there you go. Now he's a happy Autobot with a above-the-shoulder mounted rifle, and you can do what you want with that. So there you go. Good stuff. Good stuff indeed. All right. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, we'll swing that back. Close that up. Now, there's not much you can do with the minifigs in this mode as far as the bot mode goes. You could take those guys. The minifigs are really the last thing on our agenda here. You could take the minifigs, and he does have some spots on his legs. So let's see. This spot right here is the one that opens up in the proper orientation. So you could open that up, and you know, if you wanted to take Jazz and hide him in there, do something like that, you know, you could do that, lock him up in there. But obviously the scale is way off here because you know, Skyfire right up there with Megatron is the master of mass shifting. So the other Transformers in bot mode are not going to be that tiny in comparison to him. So do with that what you will. Now, what you could potentially get away with is if you grab one of the other Masterpiece human figures, like maybe something that came with Ultra Magnus, you know, you could do a King Kong kind of thing, something like that, and then he's looking down, and I think that scale works. Oh, I got to move my camera again, don't I? So I think that scale works. So you could do something like that, but the mini-bots in his robot mode, no, that scale doesn't work. So do with that what you will, but these are really cool to have, really fun to play with. So I think that covers, no it doesn't. No it doesn't, that doesn't cover everything in bot mode. Goodness gracious, I'm not even close to none. We got to talk about these, and we got to talk about the stand. My gosh, what am I doing? So just hang on to him, hang on to Jazz, and then you come back here, and then you got these ports on the backs of his thrusters, and yep, you guessed it. You're just going to take those, and you're going to plug them in, and look at that. Now he's happy King Kong Skyfire with thrusters. So there you go. Looks pretty cool. I do like that. All right, so now let's go ahead. I'm going to do a quick edit so I can get the mount, or the mount up here on on the table, and we'll go from there. So now let's go ahead and talk about that flight stand, which I was calling a mount because I was having a big brain fart. But as far as that flight stand goes, just another quick review from when we talked about it with the accessories. So everything comes together kind of like that, and then you have this clear piece that you're going to use to connect Skyfire to the flight stand, and it's just a matter of plugging it in like this. All right, so for now, let's keep that unplugged We're going to take that flight stand and move that flight stand out of the way. And then what you're going to want to do for Skyfire here, the easiest point of access is if you go ahead and grab him, and then you're going to bend his legs forward. So keep these hips the way they are, and you're going to bend those legs forward, both of them, so he's like this. And then that gives you access to everything you're going to need back here. Make all the butt jokes you want. All right, so there's your clear piece. So what you want to do is you want to line up the clear piece. If you look closely, you have this angled area right here. So you want to make sure that you have the angled area turned, because when it consumes, there's these slots right up there on the underside. You're just going to line that up, and then you're going to give this a push, and you want to make sure that those slots kind of line up with the angles right here on this. So give that a shove, keep shoving until it just won't shove anymore, and then you've got a nice firm grip with your clear piece right there. So Skyfire's not going to go anywhere without that clear piece. So then you can bring those legs back down in any pose that you want. It's up to you. And then grab your flight stand and then plug him in. So let me set him off to the side here real quick and bring this down because we don't need to see the top of him. So then you're just going to find that clear piece, plug the clear piece in, and there you have Skyfire all plugged in on his flight stand. And as you can see right now, because of the position that he's in, this is not fully secured because he's still taller than this thing is long in this angle. So lift that up, bring that back a little bit more, and then there you've got something like that. And then you can do, I don't know, whatever you want to do with him, basically. Let's keep him from falling over. So you can do something like that if you want to do it. Just keep in mind, the only thing that's holding him up right now is the tightness of this screw and the screw on the opposite side for that joint. So if your screws, and they will over time, if your screws get loose, keep that in mind. Don't let him fall. So just something to bear with right now. I've only used this flight stand a handful of times, and already you can see it doesn't take much at all, and he starts falling over on his own. So watch the tightness of those screws, okay? But yeah, you can definitely use this for support in various positions. So if you wanted to have, I don't know, some weird kick action going on and one foot down, you could do that without a problem. So that's up to you. Again, just be careful with this. Same thing in the jet mode. He's a really heavy figure. He's expensive. Don't break him. Just keep that in mind. All right, so I think that covers everything as far as accessories go. Now we're going to get into the transformation portion. Let's go ahead and get started with transformation. A couple of notes really quick. This guy is huge, so I'm going to do my best to capture everything that I'm doing as accurately as possible on camera. Also, apologies ahead of time. I don't plan on editing anything, but just in case there is an edit, just trust me when I tell you it's just simply for time saving. I'm not doing anything magic here. Not a terrible transformation. He's just huge, and I'm trying to do it in front of a camera with a camera right in my face. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So a little bit of prep work before we begin. You're going to want to make sure that you have fists in this configuration right here. So you want that thumb in on the inside of his fist. It's going to make life a lot easier for you. So let's go ahead and we're going to bring those arms out. We're going to flip the arm 180 degrees at the bicep, and then we're going to open this up right here. You're going to start bringing this hand in, and when you do, you're going to need to rotate it in order to make all the clearance right here. So you're going to rotate that hand as you turn or as you bring it in, and then ultimately it's going to rest inside this cavity like this. So that's going to give you the room that you need when you close this panel and get everything set up right there, and then go ahead and bring that arm back down, and then we're going to move on to the other arm over here. So now that we have that piece completed, we're going to take these arms, essentially take them apart. So we're going to start over here. You have a folded assembly right up here, so you're going to open right here, you're going to open right here, and you're going to open right here. So this entire thing is going to butterfly out on you. So you should have something that looks like that. All right. Something worth noting is right in here you have a pin. So when you transform him into jet mode, you need to shift this over so the pin is showing on the other side. So you're going to give that a shift. So you should have something that looks like that now. All right. Let's do the same thing over here. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to lift these up a little bit so they're out of the way. And then I'm going to pull on these chest pieces. And those chest pieces are going to untab. So you have these tabs right here that are going to correspond to each other. And then once you do that, you need to collapse these in. So right here, this assembly is on a slider. So you're just going to take this and you're going to push this in on that slider right there. So once you collapse it in, it should look like that. Now let's go ahead and do the same thing on this side. And once you are here, this would be a good spot to take your hips and move your hips one click forward. So right here, not right here, right here. Move those one click forward. And that's going to have him kind of bending over a little bit, but that's going to give you all the clearance you need for everything else that you're getting ready to do. All right, so now we're going to turn our attention to the backpack. And coming back here to the backpack, you're going to extend this out right here at the bottom. And then you are going to open these up. So just kind of get a thumb in there, give this a pull, and then that is going to open this up just like that. All right, I just realized I need to raise my camera up a little bit because I want to make sure you get a good view of it. All right, so let's do the same thing on the other side. You're going to reach up under here and give that a pull right there, and then you're going to open that up. So you should have something that looks like that. Here it is from the back, so you can see that everything is just expanded out. All right, now you'll see that the wings are sticking through a little bit. I am going to bring those wings up just enough that they clear, but not enough that they fall down. This one's tight on my copy, but the other side is floppy and loose, so it's going to get in my way if I completely open it up. So I'm going to raise those right there, just like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to proactively slide these back. It's one of the steps that I have a tendency to forget, so I'm going to slide that assembly down. So again, from the back, showing you this assembly is slid down. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to slide this assembly down as well, so you can see kind of what you're looking at there. All right, once you have that slid down, now we need to split the backpack open and we need to lower that entire backpack assembly. All right, so we're going to grab right up here. We're going to pull this down and let's see, kind of give you the best view possible. All right, and then bring that out just like that. So you should have something that looks along those lines. And now I'm going to open this up, give this all a wiggle. And then this is on sliders. So you're going to open that backpack all the way up. You should have something that looks like that now. All right. And before we forget, let me lower my camera again. There's going to be a lot of camera adjustments here, guys. Sorry, it's just a big dude. And get your thrusters and pull your thrusters out as well. Okay. All right. Now that we have that done, bring the camera back up. And then we're going to take this entire backpack assembly and we're going to slide it down. So just give that a wiggle. Now, when you slide it down, this piece right here is going to catch. So as you slide it down, you're going to need to make sure that you clear all of that. So just something to be aware of. Give that. Again, big guy doing this in front of camera. He's not agreeing with me very well. There we go. So slide your entire assembly down. You should have it oriented, give or take, about right there. All right. So once you've got it here, go ahead and get this piece out of your way. So grab, split it a little bit, and then lift this piece up. You got to get it around these tabs. You've got little tabs on either side. So you have to pull on these slightly uncomfortably and get that out of your way. All right, so again, that should be where you are. Hopefully you are there, I hope. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take those hips and we're going to click them one more time. So this is where it's going to get challenging for me on camera because I have to hold the weight of this guy while I'm doing all this. All right, so you want your hips oriented like this. You have to have your hips like this because when this arm assembly goes up in here, this is going to get in your way if you don't have it like this. The other thing that you need to be aware of is you're going to need to split these hips out. I'm not going to worry about it right now, but you need to make sure that your hips are spread out. Okay, so just something to keep in mind. But once we have it right here, we cannot put these arms away until we clear up this area right here. So that's what we're going to move on to next, and that is simply a matter of grabbing the nose cone, giving this a pull. It's just on one tab and a slot in there. Make sure you've got his head as straight as you can. Then you're going to lift this nose cone up past his head and then bring it forward like that. So again, have something like this. And I'm going to do a quick edit to see if I can get a better camera view for you guys because it's really hard to see what's going on here. See if I can make it just a little bit better. Bear with me. Okay, hopefully that view is a little bit better for you guys. So let's go ahead and keep going. What we've just done is we've raised that nose cone up like that just to get it out of the way. I'm going to proactively raise this and just keep that out of my way as well. Now, what we need to do, again, trying to get you guys the best view, this entire assembly right here, this is going to be pulled forward and then we're going to spin that around. So no real good place to grab, just kind of do your best. Grab that somewhere and give this guy a pull and bring that all the way forward on a slider right there. All right, as you bring that forward, now you're going to take this. This is actually going to cover up his face. So you're going to take this, you're going to bring that forward, and while you're bringing that forward, you've got your little piece right here that's going to come around and seal that area off right there. All right, so now we need to turn our attention. I'm going to angle my camera again just a little bit. We're going to turn our attention to right up here, this area. So you need to, what I find is easiest is opening up that landing gear port right there, and then you've got this little area right here. You need to pull this down. So kind of get your thumb under there and pull that down about right there. All right, so what you can see what's going to happen here, you've got a little clip right in that area that's going to clip on to this section right here. So looking at your orientation for the jet mode itself, this kind of helps you find that area where you need to be, and then that's going to click right into that clip right there, just like that. Now this area, well, we're going to talk about that when we get into jet mode, but for now what I'm going to do is just kind of leave it like this and not worry about it too much because we're going to address that guy later. All right, so now that you've gotten this area completed, you've opened up everything that you need for those arms. So now we are going to take these arms and we're going to tuck them away up under here. So another quick camera adjustment, and let's go ahead and get started. So now you can bring these up. As you bring them up, be careful not to run them into those hips too much. So if you need to move those hips out of your way, do so. And then you're going to start turning this, and then I'm going to bring that hip back down one more. All right, so then you're going to bring this down, clip this in right there, and then you're going to tuck the arm away. So remember, your orientation, make sure that you've got visibility of the pin on this side, not on this side. That's going to make a difference when you try to tuck everything away. So now we are going to maneuver this into place, and in order to do that, you've got this little ridge right here. That's going to have to tuck away in this hole. So there's a little bit of finagling that goes on here. So you're going to wiggle that, get that up under there. Take your arm and get the arm oriented as good as possible. Get everything tucked away as it should be. Get up there. There you go. Give that a shove. Give this a shove. Give this a shove. And yeah, trying to do this in front of the camera with the significant weight that he is, I did knock a few things loose, but hey, that's part of the deal. So just get all that back about right there. Good enough for now. So you should have something, I hope, that looks like that. Again, I always check to make sure I don't see a gap right there, because that's going to get in the way of my legs if there is one. So now let's go ahead and go to the other sides. And shove that in. Again, double checking to make sure I don't have any gap right there. So I've got my arms oriented where they need to be. I'm going to go ahead and keep my legs like that, and I'm going to straighten them out like that. So now you should have him where he can freeform stand like that, and you should have the arms tucked away in that type of configuration. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to collapse this backpack up. We're going to hide those arms and get him all tucked away, at least up top. All right, so in order to do that, you can bring these forward if you want. You want to bring this assembly down, again, making sure that, so in bot mode, the configuration was like that. In jet mode, you want it out like that. All right, so you're going to bring it up, change my camera angle once again. Big dude, big dude. And then you're going to pry these apart. You're going to tuck that away, bring that down. These tabs are all going to line up, and then you can collapse all that in on itself. That becomes a built-in spacer essentially, and that way you've got a nice wide stance there. And now you can bring these arms in. So you have tabs right here that are going to correspond to the slots that are right in there. And you're going to bring those in and give those a shove until they latch into place. Now the backs are a little bit of an annoyance. So let me, now that we've got him a little more horizontal, I'm going to bring this down and I'm going to show you back here. There are little teeny tiny tabs that are going to go in to this area right here, so make sure that you have these shoved back all the way, and then you're going to push these in and make sure that you don't have a gap back here. Make sure that they're relatively flush. So I'm going to lay him on his side and give that a snap. So it does kind of sound like you're breaking him. Trust me when I tell you that you are not. So I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to do the same thing right over here on this side as well. All right, so you should have something that looks like that, nice and flush. Let's double check this side because it has a tendency to come out sometimes. And it looks like we're in pretty good shape as far as that goes. So, you know, I'm going to tuck this in now, but he's probably going to come loose while I manhandle him, so I'll tuck him in again once we have him in full jet mode. All right, so now we can turn our attention to these legs. So thankfully, the legs are easy. Just make sure you do this. Spread those hips out. Make sure you have the hips spread. If you don't have the hips spread, none of this is going to work. So once you have the hips spread, you can see, hopefully you can see, right here's the trailing edge of one of the arms. You need to have the hips spread in order to give the hips clearance when you give them those 2 clicks to bring that up. So that's why it's so important to make sure that you're shoved over as far as possible here, and that hip is spread as far as possible. So I've got the hip in place, but I'm going to knock that leg down right there. Now I'm going to come over here and do the same thing so I can make sure I get this hip in place too. So make sure it's spread out, and then give him a click, and then a click, and then I'm going to bring the leg down right there at the hip. Okay, so hopefully you have something that looks like that. And then we're going to come down here to the legs. We're just going to lift these back panels up. We're going to take those heel spurs, fold those in, and then we're going to collapse those feet. Now we're just going to take that leg and we're going to shove that leg in on itself and then bring this down just like that. All right. Then you've got this huge tab here that's going to go into that huge slot right there. So bring your hip up and then line this up. And don't be surprised if, as you're shoving this in, this piece pops out. He is just a big guy that's got a lot of things all connecting into each other. So hopefully you should have something that looks like that. So let's do the same thing on the other side. We're going to lift this panel up. And I'm going to need to set him down gently because sometimes having short fingernails is not the best thing in the world. So I need to, oh so gently, use a tool to get into that tiny, tiny little slot right there and give that some leverage and pop that open. Okay, so now that we have that, open that up, close that heel spur, bring that foot in, collapse that leg, and then just lay that down. It doesn't lock in anywhere. And then bring this up 2 clicks, and then align the tabs and the slots. So going to rest him like this and shove that in, and then shove this one back in. Make sure that he's in there. This like has a tendency to pop out, so make sure everything is clicked in as it should be. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pop those landing gear so I can, goodness gracious, set this guy down. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of isometrics, but holding a couple pound figure out in front of you, that's a bit of a tiring deal. So bring those landing gear out and then do the same thing up here. So pop those open, and then I'm going to use my tool, bring that out, and now thankfully, goodness gracious, oh man, that dude's heavy, I can set him down. One more quick camera adjustment just to avoid the shake for you guys, and then we're going to finish him up in this mode. Now let's go ahead and keep moving right along. This is really just applying the finishing touches to Skyfire. So on those wings, just bring those wings back 1 click like that, lift him up, and then you're going to bring those wings out just like that. And then you should be good to go as far as the wings go. You'll notice that this little gap made an appearance again, so push that in and make sure you're all set. And then come over here, look at this side, and make sure the same thing. Looks like we're all squeezed in there. All right, so now we're going to turn our attention up here to this, and I'm going to just push this down and close that gap up a little bit. So this is one of those cases where you squeeze in one place, something else pops out. Not real bad, but it is ever present. So that's about as good as we're going to get him. Now we're going to take these little flaps up here. We're going to tilt them in. They have hard stops, so you don't have to guess as far as the angle goes. And then the last thing that we need to do is just the adjustment on this piece right here. So I'm going to kind of undo some of what I've done just to show you. So you have a tab right here that's going to align to this little area right there. So I have found that if you bring it up about like that, and then you start pushing these together and get him about like that, and then readjust your nose, this is about as good as it gets as far as the Skyfire figure goes. So you're going to be left with either a bit of a gap right there, or what you could do is actually lower that piece underneath, which is my preferred method. And then that way you've got just a little bit of a step there, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a little more streamlined than what you had before. So that, thank goodness for real, completes the transformation for Skyfire from his bot mode into his jet mode. Now that we finally have Skyfire in his jet mode, let's talk about all the really cool things that you can do with this guy. I think he looks better in alt mode, or in bot mode, than he does in his alt mode. But there's so much fun stuff you can do in this alt mode. And of course, most of that is going to revolve around things you can do with the characters. So first, let's go ahead and talk about all the different ports and cubbies and hiding places and everything in this mode that you can use these smaller characters for. So starting with the obvious, of course, you have the cockpit that you can open up right there. And then if I bring him in, you can see it's an okay amount of detail in there. I mean, it looks like you've got spot for 2 seats. I'm assuming those are 2 human-sized seats. But if you're going to use a wheeljack or a jazz, it's really only enough room for 1. And even in that circumstance, this can be kind of tough getting one of these characters in there and being able to close the cockpit successfully. So not the easiest thing. You're definitely not going to get Prime in here. He's just not going to fit. So you can take your wheeljack, and if you wiggle everything around just right, you can get that closed and have wheeljack hidden away in there. Very, very cool. He's got a pilot. So I like that very much. Now you have a little hidden cubby right here where you've got a bit of a control center. So there's just a little spot right up under here where you grab it and then you flip it up if you've got fingernails. There we go. And then you open this up and then you've got that area right there. Also very, very cool. And this one is Optimus Prime sized. So you can take Optimus and you can put him in there doing whatever he's going to do in that spot. He's going to, do Optimus Prime things in that spot. And he's tucked away, looking all good. And then you can close that up and there you've got Optimus tucked away in his cubby. So really, really cool. Now you also have a couple of cubbies back here. I'm going to move that wing out of the way just a little bit. So this cubby right here, this opens up. You've got a little tab area right there. You can open that up and there you have a spot for Jazz or whoever you want, really. I mean, Optimus Prime is not going to fit in there, but yeah, you can take Jazz and you can throw him in there. Now this is mostly meant when he's vertical, but I think you get the idea here. You can take Jazz and you can hide him away in there. All right, and he has one on the other side as well. So let's go ahead and spin him around. Do the same thing with the wing over here. Get that out of the way. This one opens up from the other direction. So open that up, and then you've got another area right there. And then you can, just tuck away a Jazz. And who doesn't love to tuck away a Jazz every once in a while? Close him up, and you're all set. All right, but that is not all. No, he's in there nice and tight. Come on, Jazz. Don't be stubborn with me. Don't be stubborn. Oh, now see, now you're making me bump the camera. Come on, man. Misbehaving. Bring that back over. It's a little more centered. There we go. All right, so the other spot that you have, let me push these wings back in, is up under here. Now, I've found that it makes life a lot easier if you just go ahead and take those feet, bring those feet out. And get tabbed back in. Where are you going? Get tabbed back in. What are you doing with your legs? Maybe. Come on, get tabbed back in. There. All right. So you can bring those feet out and then you can do one of these and you can have him balanced. So that way you can raise this up and you can see what I'm talking about. So this area right here has a spot. Again, try not to shake the camera too much. Gotta oh so gently use my tool here because of my complete lack of fingernails. All right, and then you got this little spot right here that you can open up, and then you can, this is kind of cool, I don't know exactly why, but you can take Jazz and tuck his legs in there and give him a little wiggle, and there he is. He's just sitting in there like that now, and then, close him up if you want to do that. There you go. Well, doggone it. Stay. There you go. All the way. Just like that. So yeah, you can do something like that if you want to. And then this closes up and there you've got a Jazz tucked away in a place where you may never think to look for him again. Otherwise, you can take him out. If you leave this open, it's kind of cool, at least in my opinion. Close those feet back up. And I'm not going to worry if one of those fell out. One of those fell out. And then you have what looks to be an entrance ramp. Once I adjust the camera and you can actually see it, what looks to be an entrance ramp up into Jetfire. So, you know, if he wanted to duck and get up in there, you know, do something like that, that's totally up to you. So really cool that you have all those options. I very much appreciate it. There's a lot of playability in this mode, no doubt about it. So you also have the added bonus. Oh, we're talking about that. You have the added bonus of storage. So if you take this piece right here and split this, I know. There we go. Get that out and lift this up. You have spots in here for storage. Let's adjust that camera one more time. You have spots in here for storage. So if you wanted to store a face, you could take one of the faces or both of them and store them in here and get those out of your way. So you could do that. And now he carries all of his faces with him everywhere he goes. Very cool. Very cool. All right, so I'm not going to worry about tucking that all the way back in. I mean, I guess I could, just as a matter of proof that you can actually tuck this. I just didn't want to waste more time. This is going to be a long review as it is anyway. So then we'll come back here, and we're going to take these, and I think you know where this is going. Plug one in, and now he is thrusting and flying, and it's awesome. All right, now you can also use this gun in a couple of places. So if we go back up here to the front, you can do in this mode what you did in bot mode as well. So you can pop this little piece out, swing it around, and you can plug his gun in right there. If I turn it where I can see it, plug his gun in right there, and then all day long he's just blowing stuff up. Very, very cool. You also have the ability, if we just take that and put that back in, let's just get that. That's unsightly. Give me the faces. Well, faces are going to stay. Not worried about it. I don't want to waste time on this review. It's getting so long. I can feel it. My internal clock is going crazy. All right, so, oh, now I got, blast effects falling off. You have this spot right here where you can store the gun as well. So just make sure that your handle is folded in like that, and then you've got this little dovetail channel area right there. It's going to correspond to this. You're going to line it up and shove it in, and there you have some pretty elegant weapon storage in my opinion. I think it flows really nicely with the rest of the figure, with the rest of the alt mode. So job very well done as far as that goes. Now, the last thing that we're going to talk about is just the flight stand. I'm going to show you how to put this on because it's not the easiest thing in the world. And then I'm just going to do the quick edit, and then I'm going to show you Jetfire all done up on the flight stand. So let's go ahead and talk about that. And I'm going to flip him over without hurting my wings. And then I'm going to move these blast effects out of my way. So you have this piece right here. You'll notice that this piece has a bit of an angle on it right there. That's going to be really important because as you're tucking this away, you actually want to have it oriented like this when it goes in. And there's a reason for that. If you'll notice, there's a notch right here. And that notch is going to correspond to the weapon. So the weapon is actually part of this mounting system. So you're just going to line this up and get that in there and pop it into place like that. And then you're going to take the weapon, and the weapon, as we stated earlier, has this little channel right here. You're going to feed that in through this area right here. So bring that weapon in, and then you're going to feed that channel right in, and you're going to shove that into place. And then once you shove that into place, that is going to hold. So the entire thing can be held really securely in that assembly. All right, just keep in mind if you don't have the weapon in there, this is not going to be quite as secure, but with the weapon in place, he's not going anywhere. All right, so now that we have that in there, he's just going to sit a little strangely for us. Now that we have that in there, Now I'm going to get the flight stand. We'll throw Jetfire on there, and you can see him on that flight stand in all of his glory. And here he is in all of his glory in the alt mode with the flight stand, looking absolutely wonderful, in my opinion. Is he perfect? No, this is not a perfect alt mode. There are things that I would have changed, things that I would have done differently, but it was definitely worth the transformation to get him here, to see him on his flight stand, and just the sheer size of this figure, of this alt mode. He absolutely towers over the other figures. Even in his alt mode, he's ginormous. So looks really good. Really good on his flight stand with those blast effects coming out of the thrusters. Just absolutely love the size of this guy, even though it's a bit of a pain in the butt to try to transform him on camera. I do want to emphasize, transformation's not bad. Not bad at all. Just a pain in the butt to do it on camera with your arms outstretched with a big heavy figure doing it in front of a camera. So that's where the challenge lies. But the transformation itself, once you get it down, is not bad at all. But yeah, I think he looks really good in this alt mode. I mean, we've essentially seen everything that we need to see on this guy in this mode. So let's go ahead and jump into the comparisons. I'm going to show him against a few other Jetfires and against a few other figures just to see how he looks. I thought it was only appropriate for us to begin comparisons with the OG. So here you see that Masterpiece Skyfire with my original G1 Jetfire. In light of the fact that the Skyfire Masterpiece figure came with a tiny little wheeljack, I thought it might be appropriate to bring in my MP-20 Masterpiece wheeljack to give you a sense of scale there between, you know, a Masterpiece Jet and a Masterpiece Automobile. Moving right along to our next comparison, this is the Leader Class Jetfire figure that we got with that 2009 Revenge of the Fallen Bayverse movie. And, you know, anecdotally, you guys remember when Leader Class figures used to be this big? Yeah, I remember that. Those were good times. Next up is the War for Cybertron Siege Commander Class Jetfire. And in alt mode, these guys are kind of similarly sized. The Masterpiece is considerably longer, but up here toward the front, they're relatively proportional to each other. But the one thing that I will note is, just due to the sheer size of both of these figures, you may have noticed on the Masterpiece over here, I folded the wings in just to get him in frame. I've had to do the same thing over here with that Commander class to get him in frame. But yeah, I mean, I think this is a pretty fun comparison. You will note when we get to the bot mode comparisons that there is a sizable difference here. Moving on to our next comparison, this is the New Age Firefox. This is their take on a legend-scaled Jetfire / Skyfire. I gotta tell you, for anybody who's watched that review that I did for this figure, this is a cool little figure. He is kind of a mini Masterpiece on his own, and it's a really cool comparison to see the Masterpiece next to this legend scale in both of their modes. Our next comparison is also a Legends scaled Jetfire. This is Magic Square's Meteor, their version of Jetfire. And same thing, similar to the New Age, really cool to see the little guy next to the big guy, and seeing them in both their modes, the alt mode and when we get to the bot mode as well. It's really cool. And for our final alt mode comparison, I'm just going to throw an image of the cartoon Skyfire Jetfire right up there beside this guy so you can see. I think they got pretty close to nailing the cartoon version. Obviously it's not 100% accurate, but I think they got pretty close with that, so there you go. And that concludes the alt mode comparisons. So let's go ahead and get this guy transformed back into his bot mode. Let's go ahead and get this started, and we are going to start first off with the landing gear. So you're going to put those away. Now I'm going to concentrate on the legs. That way we have the ability to set the figure down with him in a standing position. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take those feet, I'm going to bring those out 3 clicks, and I'm going to pull those heel spurs out. Do the same thing over here. And now I'm going to untab right there, and I recognize that I have the figure upside down, just trying to hold him at a good camera angle for you. So I'm just going to untab the legs right here. Give those a pull, just like that. And then I'm going to bring these hips right here at this joint, not up here yet, just right here at this joint. One bend down, so he's a little cockeyed like that. And then I'm going to undo this panel, and then I'm going to pull this leg. So I'm going to gently set the figure down and pull this leg. Sorry for camera shake. Pull that leg out just like that. And then one thing I didn't say, but go ahead and fold these down as well, so that way you can lay them flat. And then on the back of the leg, you have this slot right there, that tab right there. Push that in until it clicks. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other leg. Alright, so you should have something that looks like that. Now while I have him in this position, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab these hips, and I'm going to bring these hips down 2 clicks. So make sure you keep the leg spread, and then 1, 2, like that. Alright, same thing on the other side. 1, 2. And now, if he's kind of sort of balanced, you can have him stand up. And if you need to, go ahead and straighten these legs out now to help with the balance. So you should have something that looks like this, hopefully. All right, so with that, we essentially have the legs done. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the backpack area. So before we go any further, I'm going to make my camera adjustment and come up a little bit higher. So that way, hopefully we get a good view of what's going on. So once you have him in this position, you're going to need to disassemble the backpack area right here. And in order to do that, one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to fold these wings in. And then I'm just going to bring them out like this. Now this wing stays up for me. The other one is a little bit floppy, so it gets in my way. This side's going to be a much better example of what we need to do. So you have this connection right here. You're just going to give this a pull until that disconnects right there, so that way you've got a gap. And then what that allows you to do is now pull this away right here. So if you just put your thumb right up here and then pull on this, that allows you to bring that up just like that. All right, so we're going to do the same thing on the other side, except my wing on the other side is going to flop around on me a little bit. And then you should have access to those arms, because those arms are going to be one of our next steps before or right after we take care of everything that's going on right here. All right, so now that we have that, I am going to pull these arms out because it's going to allow me to angle my hips a little bit. So I'm going to grab those arms, just reach up in here and pull those arms out. You're going to tilt this down just like that. And we're going to leave it approximately right there because I still need to do all my work here, but that's going to allow me to move my hips. So I do the same thing over here. So everything's out of my way. Now I can take these hips and I can bring them up. I'm only going to bring them up 1 more click. That's going to give me the clearance that I need for everything. So now I can continue to bring these arms forward, and then I'm going to lift them up right here at this area, and then I'm going to bring them down. So that way everything's out of my way. Scoot that back a little bit. So you should have something that looks like that now, essentially where you've taken those arms out and you've laid them down. And now we're going to go ahead and do one more camera adjustment. So now that we have that camera readjusted, we're going to focus our attention on this section right here, primarily in this area right here. You're going to give this a gentle pull, and you're going to disconnect these 2 pieces from each other. And then once you do that, that's going to allow you to feed this into this cavity right here. So you're going to start turning this and bringing that down, and that's going to expose the face. But as you bring that down, as you can see in there, this piece is coming with it. So just use your finger. You're going to make sure that as you bring that down, that that piece stays folded downward just like that. And now you have exposed this slot right here. So this assembly is going to be sitting on a slider. So you're actually just going to slide this back until you feel there's going to be a click right back here. So just push until you feel that click like that, and then you know you've got that in the right place. So you should have something that looks like that. All right, so now I'm going to back it up a little bit so you can see more of what's going on up here. So you have this area right here just above the head. So you're going to need to take that piece and you're going to push it into the nose cone until it disappears like that. That's going to give you the clearance that you need now to bring this nose cone down over the head without damaging the head or the face. So now you're going to take that nose cone going to bring that down. This is the nose cone itself is sitting on a couple of joints. So you've got a joint here, and then there's a joint up here. So you're going to see kind of how this whole thing bends and comes down. So it comes down like that, and then as you're bringing this down, you've got a big tab right here that's going to correspond to this slot right here. Now this is not the easiest thing in the world. It's actually a really tight press fit, and every time I do it, it makes me nervous. So just be really careful when you're doing this. Make sure that you kept your hips spread apart. So now that we've got that down, one more camera adjustment. Now that you've got that down, you're going to line this up. So bring that nose cone in. It is a press fit. It makes me uncomfortable. We're going to keep on going and hope that it finds its way home. So I'm going to take a peek in there. I don't know how well it's working for the camera. I'm doing this more for my visibility at this point, just to make sure that I've got the nose cone lined up in the right spot. All right, so I finally have it in there. So then you're going to take that and you're going to shove it in the rest of the way. So again, it is a tight press fit. Makes me nervous. But once you get it in place, you can see how that all comes together as far as his head is concerned. All right, so we're going to leave these arms alone for now. We're going to turn them around and we're going to focus on this backpack. So you may have seen it happen kind of briefly as I was trying to push that nose cone in. But this entire backpack is sitting on a slider right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide this up, but first we're going to disassemble the backpack just a little bit more. So one more camera adjustment. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just bring these pieces right here. I'm going to slide them up to the position that they're going to need to be in for bot mode. So you can see the before and the after right there. And then when I do that, now I'm going to tuck the wings in just a little bit, just enough to keep them from flopping around on me. So same thing over here. I'm going to lift this assembly up, and then I'm going to tuck that wing in so it's just kind of out of my way. All right, now we're going to split all this up here. So I'm going to, kind of hard to reach over the camera, I'm going to pull this apart, and then I'm going to pull this centerpiece out. Now when I pull the centerpiece out like that, I'm going to be able to pull that down. You should have something that looks like that. And then I'm going to take this piece, and it's sitting on a double hinge. I'm going to bring it in just like that. And that's the way it's going to sit for the bot mode. But for now, leave it where it is. All right, now that we have all of that, make sure you stay spread here, because the next thing that you're going to do, you're going to take this flap right here, which sits behind his head, this guy, and you're going to tuck it away. So you need to pull those apart a little bit, and then grab these and then tuck that away. So it was directly behind his head, now it's sitting right back there. Okay, now that you've got that done, now we can take this assembly and we can slide it up. And when you slide it up, just make sure that you slide it until it gets to a nice home position like that. It is going to move this piece on you, so there's a little tab there. It's totally fine. That's where this little piece is going to rest. So a little sneak preview. You have this piece right here. Once you tuck that away, it's going to tuck away right into that area right there. All right, so that's kind of what you're looking at here as far as that assembly. So a little sneak peek of what we're getting ready to do. Okay, so now that you have that in place, now you can take the backpack and you can slide the backpack together on its sliders. So come up here, which is not easy to see on camera. Come up here, squeeze those together. Now, these may come back apart on you as you're dealing with things. That's totally fine. I'm not going to concern myself with it right now. The big thing is just getting that put in place. Now, you're going to bring these wings in, but you're going to have a couple of spots of interference. So first, you have tabs and slots. And then once you bring that in, you are going to bang into this plastic down here. You need to make sure that this piece right here is sitting on the outside. All right, you don't want it on the inside. If it's on the inside, it's going to cause you a world of pain. So use your thumb and your finger, kind of tuck that in right there. And now you can push that together and squeeze that together right there. So then we're going to do the same thing on this side over here. So swing this in, use your thumb and your finger, get that piece down there on the outside. Squeeze that in, double check, make sure you are on the outside there. And then you can slide this assembly forward and make sure that as you do, this piece is going to hide away up underneath. So you're going to need to fight this thing as you're doing this. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to be showing here. So let's go ahead and I'm going to tuck this away for now, just so it's a little bit cleaner. And then I'm going to try to hold this guy. Actually, you know what? Let me lay him down and bring my camera down so I'm not holding him up in midair. He gets a little heavy after a while, not gonna lie. All right, so I'm going to push this in and make sure the other side looks the same, and he does not. So there are points of pain in just getting this finalized right here. Make sure that that stays in. Both of those are in. Push this. There we go. I didn't mean to do that yet. Back up there. There we go. All right, so don't do that yet. So you should have something, if I get it on camera, should have something that looks like that. All right, and then, oops, I didn't mean to bump the camera, my bad. And then you can just slide this back to its home position like that. And everything should look relatively decent. And then do the same thing over here. So take that and slide that back. Again, I'm doing it off frame, I'm sorry. It was like this. And slide that back. And you should have it compacted up looking like that. And then you can tuck your wings in. Actually, that's probably the ideal spot, so you can tuck your wings in all the way. So disregard what I just did. Bring that up. There you go. There. So, you should have, oh my gosh, sorry. I'm dropping him, I'm shaking the camera, I'm off frame. Just complete lack of professionalism right now. Somebody report me to the manager. So, you should have something that looks like that. Everything, once you get it all lined up, everything does come together fairly well, and it does clean up and hides most of the areas. So, just a couple of things left to do back here on his backpack. The easiest one is you're just going to take the thrusters and you're going to slide those thrusters in like that, and you're going to shorten them up. Next thing that you're going to do is you're going to make sure that's squeezed together, and then you're going to bring this piece down on the tabs. And I'm going to set him down one more time. Get everything lined up and tab him in. There we go. All right, make sure those are laid down. So you should, at this point, I probably made it look a lot worse than it actually was. It's really not bad. It's just trying to do it on camera with a figure this size can be a bit of a pain. You should have a backpack that looks approximately like this. So I'll raise that up just a little bit more and back him up. So he should be looking like that. Have everything tucked away. Should be all set. All right, now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to work on these arms. So the arms, they're not difficult at all. It is just really finicky to get everything lined up. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So I'm going to show you here. You have two sets of tabs. My gosh, I'm awful at this on taking it off frame. This guy's so tall, it's throwing me off. Let's go right there. All right, you should have two tabs. And the tab you are going to be using is this tab right here. It's going to, or this little connector, and it's going to go to this tab right back here. That's what's going to hold this assembly up. So what I found, the easiest way to do this, if you raise your arm up, and I show you this assembly right here, kind of sneak around to the back, you have a tab and a slot system where you're going to use this piece right here to keep all this locked in. So this is on a slider, so if you slide this, just take your finger and slide that forward. That's going to extend that out, and then you'll notice that you have this tab right here. It's going to correspond to a slot right back there on this. So the first thing that you want to do is get that lined up and get it tabbed in. So find that and tab it. And what this is going to do for you, it's going to make sure that this little guy doesn't shrink on you, that he doesn't, as you manhandle him, he doesn't shrink back in. So that way you can make sure that this gets lined up properly. So now the other tricky part, because it's kind of by feel, kind of by sight, is you're going to bring this piece up and you are going to try to line those up together and get that squeezed in. And it does take a little bit, and just by manhandling him just then, I untabbed that. So surprisingly though, I just got that in, so that's helpful. Alright, and now get that tabbed in. So you should have something that looks like that. Now you're going to take this slider right here, you're going to push this slider down. That way you want to make sure that the pin is visible on the inside. And then it's really just a matter, now it's the easy part, it's just a matter of folding this in and then folding and pressing that one in and tabbing it in. So that's one arm complete. So we'll do the same thing over here. And dang guys, we're almost there. I know this is taking forever. I get it. Alright, so we have Jetfire almost completely there, and he's happy again. Oh, so am I. Alright, so now you're just left to taking the arms, opening these up, bringing the hands out. Remember to spin those hands as you do to give you the clearance that you need to bring those hands all the way out. And then close that panel up. And then rotate that arm 180 degrees. And then you can bring that back down. Alright, so it's one arm complete. Two arms complete, and oh my goodness, I'm so happy. We have Jetfire finally back in his robot mode. So there he is. For our first bot mode comparison, we'll go ahead and start with the original. This is my G1 Jetfire. Moving on to our next comparison, this one is a little bit different. I just wanted to bring in another Masterpiece scaled figure from a different universe. So this is the Zeta Toys Flash. This is their take on a Masterpiece scaled Blitzwing from the Bumblebee movie. And I thought this was a big figure, but you can see next to MP-57 Skyfire, even he looks kind of small. Bringing it back to the Takara Tomy Masterpiece universe. This is Skyfire's old buddy, now enemy, I suppose. This is the MP-52 Starscream. Our next few comparisons are going to be, I guess, what you would call the closest to direct comparisons to the Skyfire mold or the Skyfire character. So this first one, this is the Magic Square Meteor. This is their take on a Legends-scaled Skyfire / Jetfire. Next up, this is the New Age Firefox. Much like the Magic Square Meteor, this is New Age's take on a Legends-scaled Skyfire / Jetfire. Moving on to our next comparison, this is MP-10 Masterpiece Optimus Prime. And just for a little bit of fun here, I thought I would go ahead and show MP-57 next to his cartoon version to give you an idea of what they've done here as far as capturing that cartoon version and bringing it off the screen and into your living room. And for our final bot mode comparison, I thought it would be kind of fun, since the MP-57 Skyfire came with teeny tiny versions of Jazz, Optimus Prime, and Wheeljack. I thought it would be fun to bring the three comparable MP scaled versions in with Skyfire. along with their little guys. So from left to right over here, this is actually the Fans Toys Jive, their take on the Masterpiece Jazz, of course, MP10 and MP20 Wheeljack over there, along with their respective little dudes that came with Skyfire. So there you go. That's going to do it for the bot mode comparisons. Let's go ahead and get into the final thoughts. So there we have the Transformers MP-57 Skyfire, or Jetfire, whatever you want to call this guy. What a figure. This guy is huge in size and in price, hence the reason you have to see way more of my light box than you typically get to see. This is an enormous figure, and he's also a really expensive figure, but he was also one of the most highly anticipated figures of the year, and I don't think that he's a letdown. At least in my opinion, I very much enjoy this figure. So let's go ahead and jump into this. We're going to start with the overall looks of the figure, the aesthetics. His bot mode is excellent. I love looking at this guy. I can't stop looking at him from every direction. Not only is he big and has a great shelf presence, he's got a lot of accuracy here too. I really enjoy just the overall proportions, the overall size, the scale to the other MP figures. That bright white that they use on this figure, just everything matches. I mean, it's like a childhood come to life here as far as I'm concerned. The alt mode is good. It's not perfect. It's definitely the weaker of the two modes. He's got some areas where you can see through him. He's got some underside kibble that's not the best. You know, the robot mode is definitely the one they designed this Masterpiece for sure. The alt mode, I don't want to say it was an afterthought because I don't mean it that way, but the emphasis was put on bot mode for sure. However, in the alt mode, well, you can do it in the bot mode too, but in the alt mode, I love all the different cubbies, the different areas that you can put the minifigs that came with him, or you can put those minifigs in, those spots on his legs, the cockpit, of course, the underside where it looks like they're crawling into him, and then the backpack area, if you will. So really, really well done there, and the fact that you get those minifigs with him so you can do that role play is really awesome as well. I did not show it in the review, but I'm going to mention it here. You can do the Gearwalk mode with him, so jet mode with the legs down, or jet mode with the arms and the legs down, so he's scooping somebody up. I just didn't do it in the review. The review was getting long, and you know, it's one of those things that as you transform this figure, once you get your hands on him, it's something you're going to try. So overall, I am in love with this figure as far as the way he looks. I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10. Moving on to the articulation, one thing, much like the Gearwalk, that I did not show in the review, I missed it and I apologize, but I'm going to say it here, is he does have a butterfly joint that you can use. So if you pop the tab on those arms right up here, you can bring those arms in and use them as a butterfly. So really welcome to have something like that. I just did not showcase it in the review, and I apologize for that. However, he does not have a waist, any kind of waist rotation there, so that is a limitation. It's a little disappointing to see when, as I brought in for the comparisons, the Legend scaled figures, those guys have waist rotation. The Siege version of him has a waist rotation. So it's kind of disappointing to see that they did not find a way to integrate waist rotation into the Masterpiece figure. Also, although he has ankle tilt, I'm not a fan of the way it works on this figure. It's a ratcheting ankle tilt. It doesn't, for me at least, it doesn't feel like it ratchets in the right spots. So it's a little bit of a letdown there. But everything else that you could possibly want as far as articulation goes, you're going to get it in this figure, down to those individually articulated fingers. So I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10 on articulation. Moving on to the accessories. Oh my gosh, this guy came with a lot of accessories. You know, not just what you're seeing here. I mean, he has those other insignias that you could put on his breastplate. He has the other faces. He has the minifigures. He has the blast effects. He has the flight stand. He has his gun, of course. So this guy is just absolutely loaded with the things that you can do and the playability that you have with him. So I think almost everything that they could have put with this figure, they did. And for the price point, they really should have. So I'm going to give him a rare 10 out of 10 on the accessories. Really, the only thing that I can say that bothers me is that is a double-barreled rifle, and you can only use one of those blast effects in the rifle. So what? It's kind of annoying, kind of disappointing there, but not enough to detract. Everything else is phenomenal, 10 out of 10. taking us to quality now. Quality is not bad at all. I actually, for a figure this size, I was expecting more. I hate to say it, but I was expecting more flaws or defects than what I found. So really on my copy, the two biggest issues that I have on my left hip right in the front, I don't think it's visible here, but in some of the other areas of the review you might be able to see it. There's a paint chip down where the white meets the red on that left hip, and he came that way. I did not put that paint chip in him. He came that way. Secondly, this forearm panel, as it's swinging around right here, this left forearm panel, I have difficulty tabbing that in. I think there's some type of slight misalignment there, so that one is far more difficult to tab in than the one on the right hand side, but everything else is done really well. He came with everything he was supposed to. Everything tabs in securely. Yeah, I have some issues with the design, but the overall quality of the figure is not bad. So I've just got some issues with the way this assembly tabs in his alt mode, but everything works the way it's supposed to. It was just some areas were not designed as well as others. So overall quality is really well done. I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10 on that. So that brings us to our last bullet, which is overall value. I picked this figure up, just get it out of the way now, much like everybody else did. This was an online purchase for me. I picked it up from tfsource.com for the MSRP, which is $270 US. That is a big number. That's an investment. That's not just going out and buying a toy. That is an investment. You have to be a hardcore collector, or you have to be well off enough that it didn't hurt too bad to do that. Thankfully, I'm blessed to be in a position where I was able to pick this figure up, and I'm glad I did. I don't know how convinced I am of the $270 price point. That's a lot of money for any kind of figure. That's really starting to get into the unattainable range for a lot of people. But this one is something that, you know, I was wanting to see since my childhood. I don't think he disappoints at all as far as the figure goes, but that $270 is a big number. So I am going to ding him for that, because I think realistically this should have been maybe a $200 figure. So I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10 for overall value. So that brings us to our grand total. Out of a possible 50 points, MP-57 Skyfire gets 43 out of 50, which puts him at 86%. There's no hesitation on my part that if you have the means, if you have the ability, this is a figure you're going to want to pick up. He goes great with all the other Masterpiece figures. He's a solid, well-built figure. Not perfect, has a couple of design flaws, a couple of things that annoy me, but he's loaded for bear with the accessories, that fun factor, just that huge shelf presence, and the fact that even though I didn't represent it very well in the review just because of his sheer size, the transformation is actually fun. It flows pretty well. It's just I had to do so many camera adjustments, and I had my arms fully extended just to get him all on camera, and dealing with his sheer size. Transforming him in person is not that bad. Transforming him on camera is a pain in the butt, I will admit that, but I think overall this figure is something that I would recommend if you have the means. So that's going to wrap it up for the review. I hope you guys got some good information out of this. I hope you found some entertainment, and I appreciate you bearing with me as I struggled through that transformation on camera. I know it's not my most elegant transformation I've done on camera before, so I do appreciate the patience going through that, and I hope it helps you guys out if you struggle with the transformation yourself. So that's going to be it. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and if you haven't already done so, be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't done so. Comment if you like, and if you know anyone who would like this video or would like this channel, please feel free to share this video with them, share the channel with them. It's always fun to see it grow, and it's always fun to talk to people and get to know everybody else out in the community. So until we see you guys in the next review, take care.